And welcome to the Football 360 show. Here we are together again, back talking all kinds of football, everything football. Fastest 48 minutes of football talk on the planet. I am JP Rock. He is Matt Bierman. How you doing today, Matt?
Doing wonderful.
And where can people reach you at?
Elite Football on X and Elite Football Academy on Instagram.
And you can reach me at JP Rock MO on X and JP Rock Scouts U, the letter U, on the gram, as the kids call it. All things Football 360 Show can be found at football360show.com. And of course, we're coming at you live on YouTube as well as X. And for the audio only, the podcast can be found on Apple as well as Spotify. We're still on Spotify, right, Matt?
Oh, yeah.
There you go. So, signing day coming up tomorrow. I wanted to talk a little football recruiting because signing day is coming up, and some interesting developments. I'm seeing some guys, and I think it's great. You know, we talk so much about the transfer portal and about how it's affecting high school recruiting, but what I'm seeing and what I wanted to pass along, and I say it all the time to people, I say it to players and parents: recruiting is a marathon and not a sprint. And I know that's hard for people to digest because, you know, you're seeing kids getting offers as eighth graders, right? Seventh, eighth grade. And so they're like, well, where's mine? Where's mine at? And, you know, you have to be patient. Perseverance is such a key in life, but especially with recruiting, because your time will eventually come. And I'm seeing it with some kids. I'm going to talk a little bit about a few kids who really their time didn't come until this past month, and some kids till this past week, right? And we're going to talk about a young man who's signing with Missouri State tomorrow who did not get his offer until I think it was this past weekend, right? So we're gonna talk a little bit about that, and you have some thoughts.
Yeah, I just think the recruiting deal it's not over until it's over, right?
That's
And I
it.
think, and a lot of kids think it's over as soon as they get that first offer and they have no idea what they're in for, right?
Right.
Even if you're a kid that turns into a 30 offer kid, I mean, the truth of the matter is you're never really, finished
Made. Yeah.
until you sign on the dotted line, and then from there, that's a 1-year deal. So then,
Right.
next year you could be going somewhere else.
Right. Or you could be told to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's what's happening now, because, you know, college football is professional football. And, you know, I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But I think it's great and it's good news for people. You know, you have guys, and we're talking about guys who are signing, like I said, with Missouri State, young man by the name of Malachi Lewis, who I'm sure you're familiar with, Webster Groves High School, 6'3", 200-pound long snapper, right? Long snapper athlete. He plays linebacker. He plays tight end as well. But he's a kid, right, who, and I want to say he's been bothering me for 3 or 4 years, right? But he's been on it, right? Wanting to know what can I do? What, you know, all this. He really wanted it,
Right.
and he did what he needed to do. He showed up to, you know, the elite combine. He came to the St. Louis Metro coaches, you know, showcase. He you know, spoke with people. He found what he needed to do, and tomorrow he's going to sign with Missouri State. And then you also have the 3 guys who are signing with Mizzou, 4 guys who are signing with Mizzou tomorrow, right? Who you know, were worried about the recruitment, quite frankly. You know,
Right.
one was committed to Northwest Missouri State, Karsten Feeney. You have Trashundon Neal from Liberty North, right? You were at the Mizzou camp with me, and we're like, man, this guy might be the best guy here.
Yeah.
You know, just
Really.
yeah. And then Preston Hatfield from Lee Summit as well. You know, broke Kyron Williams' state record in the Class 6 Show Me Ball Championship.
He
457.
didn't have a ton of offers either, right? And then all of a sudden it's
Correct. Out of the blue. He was injured a lot, and there weren't a lot of schools, you know, hovering around him. And then Mizzou, boom, there's my chance. And of course, Graham Faust going to sign with Mizzou tomorrow. You know, and you know, well, we know his father, so that was a struggle for that was a struggle. You know,
like
he was.
you think about it, though, it is just it's a struggle the entire time until you tilt to that
until
day
it happens.
Yeah.
And no matter how much we tell people, you know, it's look, have some pay. It's going to work out. It's going to work out. And it's so good to see it. See it work out. And Graham definitely deserving. It's so good. I feel so happy for him because here's a really talented kid, and I knew it was going to happen, but it's just a question of
Uh,
when.
yeah, and then then you have other coaches you're talking to. Then those coaches change jobs, and you have, I mean, we have situations where kids are told, "Hey, we have a spot for you," and then
Right.
later in the week they don't have a spot for them because of something that changes. And
Or worse, right up to signing day, they will say, "Hey,
oh,
guess what? We don't have a spot for you." You know that. Yeah, there's a story. Tell the story. A young man who thought he had a spot, and
oh,
you,
I
you
mean, you're
told me
talking.
on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, the gentleman was, offered, said, "Hey, we got a spot for you," and went to commit a day later or 2 days later, whatever it was, and there was a mishap within the recruiting, like changeover of staffs, and hey, there's kids that are committed to us, and they're trying to just figure and slot guys in by position,
Right.
and hey, we thought we had a spot for them here at this position, and oh, by the way, we don't now. If something changes 100%, we're going to have a spot.
Right.
Which at this point, with no spring transfer portal period, this time last year, they're going to go ahead and take that kid because they know they're going to have kids leave in the portal period, right? So then that's going to work out. Well, now that doesn't happen as freely, but you and I both know it's a year-round transfer portal. Like
Right.
who are we kidding?
Oh,
Because if it's already been proven in the courts, if you unenroll from school and drop out, you are a free agent. You can go to any college you want to in America. Like that's the dirty little secret. So there will be a spring transfer portal period. It just won't
mm,
be announced because the kids that are graduating in the spring can leave. The kids that are getting an extra year, they can leave. There's a whole host of reasons of guys can leave. And oh, by the way, if you say, I don't want to go to XYZ college anymore, I'm out because they had that deal last year. So the precedent's already there. There's a kid at Wisconsin who dropped out. And then I forgot where, maybe he ended up at Wisconsin, but he ended up leaving.
mhm.
And the court said, yeah, no, he can do that. Like who
Yeah.
are you to say he can't go to a different college? Why would you penalize him?
Right.
So the transfer portal, in my opinion, is more of a formality, and it's a lot of pomp and circumstance, and then they squeeze it into a 10, 14-day period, and then it's like, oh, we feel really good about ourselves. And they got to stick with it and let it go for a year. But I think people have gamed the system before. They're going to game it again, and there's agents involved and there's money involved. You're telling me that those guys, like a 4-star kid that played last year at Texas A&M, can't quit, and then someone big won't sign him? I mean, come on, like
Right.
that's silly. Like they're gonna if it's already happened before, why would it not happen again? I guess that would be my thought on it. But yeah, the whole deal is like, unfortunately, the schools have a lot of moving parts. There are consequences of all these moving parts, and sometimes kids get caught in the middle of that, which is you hate to see because they really don't have leverage unless they have 20 other offers, right? And
Mhm.
so then you see, staffs, just use Missouri State as a great example because it comes to mind. They signed 16 kids in December, early signing period.
Yep.
Okay. Well, those 16 kids committed to the university or Missouri State University. And then a week later, 2 weeks later, the head coach is out. He
Right.
leaves. So then at that point, those kids are all free to leave. Okay. They can leave. There's no ramifications. But as you and I know, they're pretty much most of those guys are screwed unless they're going to leave and go with that other staff because they've pretty much at that point, by the time they're committing, they've told everybody else no. And those
Mhm.
people have filled their spots. So it's not like there's a bunch of spots just laying open for like, oh, hey, I want to come here now. Like,
Right.
no, that's not how it works. So I think, so you got 16 kids that you didn't recruit, right? That you've
Yeah.
signed. And now they're in your pipeline, so to speak. And then there's other kids that maybe you didn't know about that were already committed from the old staff that didn't sign early period, but they're still committed, right? So, like, if you think it through, you have a kid that commits to a college and he doesn't sign, but you agree as the college to accept him. Well, now that's a verbal agreement. So you offer him, he commits, you accept the commitment, and now that's a verbal agreement. Well, verbal agreements hold up in court just like written agreements, right?
Mhm.
So now that university could potentially be liable if they say, "Hey, we don't have a spot for you anymore," right? Because now that's probably what, a $30,000 a year education in most of these schools on average, if not more.
Mhm.
And you're now withholding education from me that you promised me, and I committed. And when I committed, I told other people no. Well, now think if you're a new staff and you inherit other people's early period guys, and you inherit the late signing guys that didn't sign the first time around.
Yep.
Like it's a hairy situation for colleges to say the least. And I think that's the tough part of coaching changes. It's a tough part of the transfer portal being when it is.
Right.
But you see kids getting, who gets beat up in this situation? The only guys that win are the players that have a bunch of leverage with a bunch of different offers, right?
Right.
Other than that, everybody else is kind of at the behest of the system, the mercy of the system.
Yep. Yeah, they are, but I mean, there is hope, and that was the what I wanted to really point out is that,
True.
I like I said with the portal, and you're absolutely right to all that stuff. But I mean, it's great to see guys, it's great to see young men who put in the work, who have the talent, get their talent recognized. And as somebody who does this, it starts, yeah, finding these guys when they're seventh or eighth graders, and seeing that the whole process go through. It's great to see that pay off. And I mean, even that, a couple other guys, I wanted to mention Rafe Puryear, who I know you're familiar with. Who's he signing with? I think he's signing with Western Illinois. Is there?
Oh, I think it
Yeah,
is. He was
West.
hurt, he hurt this year, right?
Right,
Which is tough.
talented kid.
Yeah.
Which is very tough. But again, these schools, like you said, it's not over till it's over, and they're constantly beating the bushes, constantly looking. Because with recruiting, be it what it is, they can't afford the transfer portal guys. They have guys who schools are stealing up until the last minute, and so they're constantly out there looking for guys. And quite frankly, they're still gonna be looking for guys up until like June 1st. You
Oh, yeah.
know, so it's not over, even if it's not that thing. But there's him. Trevor Christman from Springfield Parkview, big 6'7", 300-pound guys, also going to sign with Western Illinois. And last minute deal, just visited there this weekend, and so he's going to sign with them. So congrats to those guys. And like I said, if you're still looking, keep the faith, because the colleges are still looking as well. And so,
At all levels, they're looking.
at all levels, and opportunity will be there. And you and I were talking, before the show, about just the talent that's going to schools like Truman State, right? Mobap, Lindenwood. Those schools are cleaning up because of the portal. So
100.
yeah, so there's that as well. And then what you're going to see is if you're that dude and you're like, oh man, I should have went to Mizzou, or I should have went to whoever, any Power Four school, you still have that opportunity. That's a golden opportunity for you. And we were talking about a kid like Brennan Shasheen going to Truman State. What do you think he's going to do at Truman State? He's a pretty high level talent.
Yeah, he should tear it up, right? And then ideally, you want to be in an environment where um they're okay seeing you go, right? And
Right.
they're okay playing you early, knowing the risk that if you blow up and do what you're supposed to do, and they recruited what they recruited you to do, that they're probably not going to have you. I do think, you see it in high school, you see it. I'm sure it's in college. I haven't witnessed it as much in this new era, but you're going to have guys that theoretically are going to hold kids kind of at bay. I mean, I could give you a really good example. I had a kid that we trained, power forward transfer. He just wants to play. He's got 3 years eligibility left.
Right.
Kind of like a play in year. Kind of get some more reps. He's got unbelievable. He got a couple injuries, and then he has some really good high quality film. I mean, he's going against Travis Hunter and guys like that like every day in practice, right? So he's got really high quality film. And so I won't even say the school, but like he goes and is a D2, and the guy says, and that where he would go in and be their best receiver like day one,
Mm-hmm.
like not even close. He's developed 3 years in a Power Four program, and he's really good. And the guy says, "Yeah, we got 3 senior receivers here, so the plan would be is kind of work you in. We're pretty even." we kind of even the balls out with all the receivers. So it's kind of, no favorites. And,
Mm,
then our hope would be get you some reps this year. And then next year, you're really going to have a shot at it. And that's like, are you kidding me?
yeah.
So, to me, that tells me that program is a part of the school. It's an
Mhm.
athletic program, but those guys are not there to win. Those guys are there to uh, feel the football team, right? Which is
Right.
fine. But if you're a competitive kid, I mean, as soon as he heard that, he's like, "What?"
Right.
I mean, and one of the starting receivers he said was 5'8", 150 pounds. Like, come on,
Yeah.
that's like, how serious is that kid about playing football? If you weigh 150 pounds and you're in college,
Right.
like,
Well, how serious is the coaches, right? If
yeah,
you got a guy land like that, you're telling them that no, the seniors got first dibs.
yeah, we got to
Sight
give we
unseen, what you can
give you a
do.
couple $1,000 to come here. It's like, oh my god, I mean, just again, so you hear all these different things, and you realize, like, oh my god, like there is a wide disparity between the situations kids are in and what they, so you got to keep plugging away. You got to keep working at it, because eventually you're going to find the right scenario. And truth be told, you're in college and you're in that situation. You just kind of take classes, be out of spring ball, and then just wait, because guys are going to leave,
Right.
guys are going to quit, guys are going to get hurt, and opportunities will open back up. And so theoretically, the only people from a college perspective that they can take are guys that are technically in the transfer portal, or if they've dropped out of school, right? And
Right.
then they're looking for a new college to go to. But yeah, JP, the whole scenario is you got to keep working. You never know what I mean, you don't know. Even if you're a big time recruit, you still don't know. Like,
Correct.
there are so many moving parts, and you don't know what your decision actually is. I mean, let's just use Rocco Marion as a great example.
Mhm.
They signed him at UCF. It's a great deal for him.
Yep.
And then a couple days later, they bring in another guy that's just like him, another four-star freshman quarterback,
Yep.
similar size, similar background. And I'm sure that was not in the conversations when they were wooing and courting him to come there.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, so unfortunately, it's a dirty business. It is what it is. They don't care what your feelings are, so you probably shouldn't care what their feelings are. The number of guys that over the years I've encountered, there's a really good group of coaches and guys, and then there's a group that, quite honestly, I'm not going to say they're bad human beings, because it's not for me to say, but I will say this: there are some less than um, moral behaviors, right?
Less than honorable.
And here's the thing. I mean, truthfully, the type of stuff, the behavior you see, and the lack of communication sometimes, and how opaque it is. If they were in the real world, like in the real business world, they would get eaten
Mhm.
alive.
Yeah.
You could not do what they do to individuals. Like, say that was a customer. You
Yeah.
could not do that and grow a business that way. But they have a crop of new kids every year, and you have the power because you're the one who holds the keys.
Right.
But guess what?
They're pretty protected.
Guess what? It always comes, but the light always shines on that crap eventually. It does, because eventually
You hope.
they're the guy who's now in a position where someone's vouching for them to have a job, and you don't know who they're calling on your behalf and saying, "Hey, how'd this guy treat your recruits? Hey, what
Mhm.
this guy do in the process?" Yeah, sometimes they get pulled along and they're shielded, that's fine, but eventually it does kind of catch up. And I think that, again, it's like anything else in life. You got to treat people with respect. You may not be able to give them the answer they want, but you got to be a man about it and give them a truthful answer. And too many kids get strung along through the process. That's why we're having these conversations that you and I are talking about, where you don't know how to even advise on sometimes, because you don't know the situation.
Oh, I do.
It's opaque. Like, they don't give, but they don't give you the full answer. So yeah, you and I
Well,
can tell him what our experience is, but the
yeah.
truth of the matter is, you and I aren't making those decisions, right? And
No, you can give somebody the best, advice that there is, and it's really up to them to take it. However, I've been doing this pretty long, and that's one of the things that I offer is that I know coach speak.
Mhm.
Okay. So if somebody tells me, hey, they told me this, this, and this, I have a pretty good idea what that really means. And quite frankly, I've always been on the side of the kids. And I know that, I don't know if that ruffles people's feathers or not, but I'm always on the side of the kids because they really don't have an advocate, right? They got mom and mom and dad, for the most part, don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. And nothing prepares a parent for, college football recruiting. So they're at a huge disadvantage.
Right.
And so you're right. You get most for the most part they're pretty honorable, but you do have some people who aren't. And so you really got to protect yourself. You really got to guard yourself. You really got to go into it, understanding that it's a business and it is a dirty business. And what I mean by a dirty business, I mean, things will be pulled from you. Things will be said, right? People will even tell you how much they love you. And, they're just words. And you got to realize that you can't fall in love. You gotta go in with a certain level of, not wanting to believe what you hear, right? If it sounds too good to be true, it is. And
Yeah.
just like there's, junior days, a lot of junior days happening, right? Guys get invited to junior days, love it. It's fun. It's exciting. You get to go see a basketball game and you meet some coaches. From the junior days, I can tell who they're serious about and who they're not. You know that. I know that. And so it's just a fascinating situation that people have to really guard themselves. Regarding coaches who catches up to them, sometimes it catches up to them. You and I both know guys who've fallen upward, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Who've done horrible. You just been horrible with it, and they fall upwards. Sometimes even to the NFL, and then you're like, what? He didn't do anything. Those are the guys who really network and connect well with
Yeah,
others.
or they're with the right coach that is a high riser, and they just get pulled along for the ride. And
Correct. Right.
that's the other thing. Part of the process too is a couple things in recruiting. If you're getting recruited by your position coach, that's always a positive. I would take
Hmm.
that as an A plus, right? Such a situation. If you're talking to the guy who's the area recruiter and he's done most of your recruiting, and you have not spent a lot of time with the position coach, I
Hmm.
take that as a major detraction from something that's going to benefit you long term.
Right.
But I also think what you got to realize is too is most coaches will not admit this to you, but they are not the decision maker. The guy you're talking to 9 times out of 10 is not the decision maker. So, if take it as this. You have, it's like a small business, right? So the small business owner, oftentimes the owner is the one who makes the final call, right? So there's people that work for that owner who can tell you all the information about the program, tell you everything they need to do. But when it comes time to actually like execute a deal or something extra or something special, they don't have the power to say. They have to ask their boss, right? So same thing is going on at the college level. Most of these guys do not have um they just don't have the bandwidth or the authority to say, "Oh yeah, hey, we're going to offer you." Right?
Right.
They may have had a conversation with the GM and the head coach ahead of time, and then they come in and pull the trigger. But oftentimes there's more things at play on their board and who they have rated with how all that works together. And the guy you're dealing with is a street lieutenant who's out there gathering all the data, and he's running that region for them, but he is not the one who makes the final call. And so I do think you have to kind of know how the hierarchy is.
Yep.
If you're dealing with an OC, a DC, or the head coach, that's different.
Hmm.
But I mean,
Although
getting
I do like it when I see guys offered by the position coach.
oh yeah,
Right. Yeah,
100%.
so like, Chase Dixon from Fort Summerall West just picked up an offer from Missouri State. He was offered by his position coach.
Right.
Another young man I know was offered by them by the position coach. He's the guy, right? He's got to deal with you. So if he's the guy, right, he can go to the head coach and be like, no, 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 no. I'm not feeling this guy. I'm not doing that. And like you said, OC, DC, head coach. If you're going to junior days, okay, here's a little pro tip for you. If you're going to junior days and you're going into the head coach's office and get your picture and getting glad handed, slapped on the back, mom and dad, come here, mom, how you doing? Because they love to talk to mom, right? Mom is, and you're going to go through this, right? Although they know dad is really really in charge with your son, who's a big time quarterback prospect. So they're going to deal with you.
They will be dealing with me.
Right, but you know what I'm talking about, though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
Because
yeah.
mom's got a lot of influence on
Mhm.
stuff usually, unless it's like a severe alpha like you, who just like who's like it comes through me.
No,
Um,
but
but
yeah, my wife will be involved for sure, but yeah,
oh, trust me, I know.
yeah, she'll yield, but I think she'll yield to me on my judgment with it.
Correct. You're in a unique situation, but if you're going through there, they like you pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Whether they've offered you or they haven't, you're high on their board. If you're just going there and you're taking a picture outside the stadium or something like that, odds are that you're not as high. So you want to use that. So you don't want to put all your eggs in that basket. Oh man, I love this school. They had me for junior day. If you go to you go to Mizzou or you go to Kansas State or Illinois and you get to go through the coach's office, whatever, that's great. But then if you go to a Missouri State or a Northern Illinois, right, and they take you through the coach's office, ding, 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 that light's got to go off in your head. Be like, okay, now I know,
Mhm.
or Eastern Michigan, whatever school it is, then they're serious.
Yeah, and I think I gotta tell you, and every staff's a little different. The head
Right.
coach obviously drives all of it, and they have
Yep.
directors of recruiting and all that stuff. But it's his program. He's the one who's making
Yep.
the most money. I could tell you, Eastern Michigan. Um, I know a coach on that staff, and there's it for sure. He has numerous times referenced, "Hey, I got his information in front of the head coach. I'm waiting for him to give me an answer." Now, does that mean that the coach watched it and has not given? No, it means the coach hasn't watched it and he's waiting for him to watch the film and give him an answer. So it's not like he's gonna you'll watch it and then contemplate for hours. You know,
Mhm.
these guys are pretty good. They're gonna watch the film. They're gonna go, oh, that's great. Boom, let's offer him, or
Yep.
let's wait, or he's not gonna be a good fit for us. Whatever it might be, but I do know that those other coaches, that's why you don't start with the head coach. I mean, you send emails, you're not sending emails to the head coach. That guy's not opening his emails. I mean,
Mhm.
maybe, but most likely not.
Yeah.
His assistant is. His assistant's probably opening it and checking
Yep.
it out. But he's dealing with far more issues than that, right?
Correct.
So, but yeah, I think
Including raising money.
yeah, right. Oh, yeah, boosters, collectives,
Mhm.
all that stuff. I mean, the conference stuff, the president, the AD, all that fun stuff. So, he's the CEO, but ultimately, they will disclose and give him a list of people that and their reasons why they want to offer. And a lot of these guys do want to know who's coming, and their hands are all over it. Some guys
Mhm.
are like that, but
Right.
just so you know, like on that, we were talking about like the position coach, why that's important is if just think of it in these terms. You're let's say you go to University of Illinois, okay, and you're a defensive back, and the guy that happened to recruit you was the O-line coach was recruiting your high school in St. Louis. He found you through your head coach. He takes you and runs you through all of it, and then he's kind of been your primary contact. You've talked to the DB coach when you've been up there a few times. Well, then now you're there. Let's say you commit, you're there. You the guy that is there that's recruited you usually is the one who stands on the table to protect you and help you and let people see the merits of who you are and why you're there. But if your coach is on the other side of the hallway in the offensive meeting room and not the defensive where they're having conversations daily about players, who's there to stand up for you? Yeah, your position coach is there, but I'll give you a great story. Dalton Demos, we've talked about him numerous times. Was a great quarterback, played at CBC, goes to Coastal Carolina. There was a coaching change before he gets there. And a guy looks at him, and he was so athletic. So, I mean, 6'5", could run, he could jump, all of it.
Dad was an Olympic athlete.
Yeah, and so the guy looks at him, and they're walking off the field. He goes, and he's a freshman. He goes, "You ever thought about playing receiver?" And Dalton goes, "Well, you guys recruited me to play quarterback." And the guy looked at him point blank and goes, "I didn't effing recruit you.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
was the other guy." And so that
Yep.
right there,
Right there is when you need to go and figure out where am I going to go next.
well, yeah, that's what he did. He went to a JUCO back
Yep.
then because you couldn't have transfer portal, and then he was a top 5 JUCO guy in the country, and then blew his knee out on a touchdown. But anyway, but that being said, that I say that story because I don't think people understand the harshness. And so for all you guys that are going to sign tomorrow, or all you guys that signed back in the early to signing period, if you aren't working, you're going to be the next statistic that just gets pushed out of college football, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't need you. They want you now, but they don't need you if you cannot produce for them. So part of that process is developing, staying with it. You know, think of it in these terms. You're in high school, your senior season's over. You do nothing till June. You've been off since October and November, right? Now that's 6 months, 7 months of being off. And now the guys you're competing with when you get there in June have been playing in bowl games through January, December and January. They got a few weeks off. Now they're running every morning, sprinting, doing all their lifting, all that. Then they go into spring ball. They have a week off, and then they start their auxiliary lifting right after that to prepare for the summer. And what have you been doing? Hanging out with your friends, hanging out with your girlfriend,
Playing some video games,
right? You feel basking in the glow of your commitment,
hanging
and
on
your
social
signing.
media. Yeah.
Like that kind of bullshit, excuse my French, is what's going to get you in a real deep heap of trouble when you get down to school. And like they do not. And now, back in the day, you and I know they would have a bunch of kids that you'd be like, man, JP, you and I have been on so many college practices. You're like, where'd they get that kid from?
Yep.
Right. And the kid doesn't do anything,
Yep.
but they couldn't get rid of them. Now they can get rid of you. At the end of that next year, I mean, theoretically, they say they can't, but you and I both know countless examples of how kids are magically off of rosters.
Yeah. They
right?
just tell you. Yeah.
Yeah, this,
Now they just tell you.
they're not supposed to, right?
No.
But they do,
But they used to run you off.
right? And that's
right.
Yeah. So, but it is like if you're sitting at home thinking you've made it, you are sorely mistaken. You are sorely mistaken. You've just got to get invited to one of the most elite clubs of football, right? That rivals the NFL when it comes to revenue and size, and you're gonna take time off and let everybody tell you how good you are. You are That's foolish behavior. That's a foolish risk that you're taking.
It really is. And unfortunately, I can pick out those guys already. I see guys who are signed, right? And I see them getting accolades. And what's funny is that I was having this conversation with somebody, and guys like to post about, how they magically made it on like a top 300 roster for, one of the recruiting fan sites, which I think they're all owned by the same people now. But it was like, well, they had no stars and weren't anywhere, but because they signed with this school, now all of a sudden magically they're a top 150 or top 300 kid, right? And it's like, man, you can't live off those accolades, because you're absolutely right. Once you get there, and you and I have seen it, like you said, from being at practices, I've seen some really highly thought of guys just get their ass handed to them, okay, in practice. And then once that starts happening, then you start hearing it, right, from teammates. And if you don't have that mental toughness, those guys, and I've seen it a lot, those guys, they, now they have other places they can go. Before, they just quit football.
Oh, they'll eat you alive. They will.
Oh, they'll eat. Yes, because it's just, I mean, you want to talk about like, it's like some kind of a wild nut. They smell fear, right?
Yeah.
And once they smell that fear, man, it's hard to get them off you, right? It's hard to get the wolves off you once that happens.
Once you got that smell of fear, and I think, or weakness, right?
Yes.
And hone in on it. And so, I again, you hate to be the bearer of bad news, but when you think you've arrived, it's over.
Yeah.
Right. And I always tell guys and college coaches, I've told this so many times, we have so many kids over the years that have, committed or been early commits, and they got those early offers, and they think that is what they were working for. They lose sight of the fact that they're working for their freshman year when they step on the field and realize they're playing against 24-year-old men.
Yes.
Right. And so, and let's be truthful. The trend in college football is not going to go younger. It's going to go older. Right. and I saw some very interesting yesterday. This guy was basically saying the same thing we've been saying for weeks, but it's called the trend theory. I think that's what it is, the trend theory. So basically, he shows the graphs of all the national title teams from like 2016 on, and it shows the dispersion between freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, right? I wish he would have done it freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, fifth year transfer guys, right?
Yeah.
Because that would, I think, really show. But I know why he did it the way he did, because it just showed like the older guys. Every team that has won that title since 2016 has been super heavy in that fourth column. Okay. And the reason being is, and what his point was with like even Indiana and how they cracked the code is they didn't go after a bunch of, like, name a superstar on that team besides Fernando Mendoza. And Fernando Mendoza was not even a superstar at Cal.
So
he was just a really good football player.
Yep.
So what happens is you get this just conglomerate of kids that are a lot of 1 and 2 and 3 stars coming out of high school that have now turned into really good football players as juniors, going to be seniors, and that's when they pick these guys up because they're intelligent, they're smart players, they've stuck with it, they've matured through the process, they've lifted, their bodies are in the right position, but they know the game and they're also not there to mess around, right? And so they have enough experience to where they can go out and execute a game plan against a bunch of 19 and 20-year-olds, right? And that, that is a huge competitive advantage. And so kids that don't take care of their business in high school used to be behind. Now they're so far behind, JP, that it may be to the point where it's insurmountable, right?
Yeah. You're talking about coming in and playing right away or playing early.
Or sticking around or even competing in practice.
Right.
Like being a member of the team.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, some guys are just happy to be there, but you're right. I mean, if you're not right now working and not just working, but building, you know what I mean? You got to keep building yourself physically, building your skill set. Those two things really go hand in hand because I see guys and just lifting weights in the gym. That's not going to cut it. You got to train, you got to work on your skills. And what's really great is when you see these guys like at Elite, right? Who they've already signed, they're committed and they're going to sign tomorrow. And you see them in there still trying to develop and build their skills, build themselves physically. Con Horman is,
it's a great example.
He's a great example. Andy Hertline last year playing at Indiana State now. He never missed. He just never missed it.
He was home over break working with BJ.
Yeah. And I saw Andy when he was a sophomore. He thought he loved playing baseball, right? Played both sports. I'm like, dude, you gotta, baseball's nice, but you gotta focus on football. And he did. He bought into what I told him, right? And there you go. He's playing in Indiana State. Yeah, Andy's a tireless worker. You want those guys. Your son's a tireless worker. You see the guys that are tireless workers, and guess what that equates to? That equates to success, right?
AP, like you can own. The reality of it is like I'll use my son as an example. Like he's obviously in there all the time, and he's been there since he's been a little kid. Some of it's just because it's like, if your parents own a laundromat, you're going to be at the laundromat.
Yeah. And luckily you put a cot in there for him. So I'm starting to think he might live.
Yeah, just cut the grass, all that stuff. But the thing is like, I will say at some point in time, it was now, hey, he wants to do it, right?
Yeah.
Like last night, for instance, he came in and threw, right? Did his session, trained all day Sunday, came in and threw. And then we added something new to his training regimen last night. So he's going to work with one of our speed coaches. He works with Coach Munn already on all of his speed and development.
I was going to say, he's already fast.
So we have another guy that's on our staff named Brandon Miller, who was an All-American national champion track runner, and then he sprinter, and then he D2, and then he went to Kentucky and finished up the last 2-3 years at University of Kentucky. So SEC sprinter. And so he's working on his starts and he's working on some coordination stuff and all those things. They all work together, right? And then he also, there's things that he does, but here's the thing. I watched his starts weren't good last week when he was racing some guys. Now he was running good, but his start wasn't good, right? He was staying fast, but he wasn't like quick off the whistle, right? Uh, so I just observed it. And then I see him over in the corner when they're done. Everybody's, his group's done. And he's talking to coach, Coach Munn, about his starts. Then Coach Munn walks off, and then I watch him for 15 minutes by himself, self-guided, doing his start and trying to perfect it because he was pissed off that he didn't do what he thought he should do. That intrinsically motivated behavior, you can't make someone do that, right?
No.
You can't. And I'm sorry. I've had so many kids over the years that I wish I could have done it with. I've talked to them about it. I've tried to get them to do it. But they're really good when they're there. But then as soon as they walk out the door, they don't do another thing till you see them again. And to me,
Right.
again, some of it's just learned. You got to learn how to do it, right? So some of it, you don't know what you don't know. But at some point, there has to be a fire and say that ticks you off so bad when you don't do it right.
You have to want it.
That you want to go do it again. And that's the same thing. And I always see it with like little kids. Like when we get done training, if I watch them and then their parents are talking, and then the kid picks up a ball, he starts throwing it again.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the kids that usually do really well. Where the kid that grabs the stuff and says, "Hey, I got to leave," and wants to walk out the door, his mind's on other stuff. He just was there. That's just something he was doing versus who he is. And I think that's there's a clean line of delineation between people that play football and football players. Does that make sense? Like there's a clear line. And so college coaches are looking for football players, not guys that play football. A high school football team's full of guys that play football.
Right.
Okay. They're looking for the 5%ers that are the guys and 1%ers that are guys that actually are 8 up with football. I'll give a great story. Todd Monken, who just is in the news, he just got hired by the Cleveland Browns. Years ago, he was recruiting Brandon Shepard from Parkway Central. Got to know Todd very well. Kept up with him pretty good from when he was in college, and now he's been in the since he's gotten in the NFL. I have not talked to him as much, but really good guy, excellent teacher, intense, super intense. And he says to me, he says, we're watching Brandon Shepard. He goes, what I love in recruiting guys is I want to know how much they love the game of football, how much they love sports in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
The kid doesn't know anything about sports. That tells me he doesn't watch sports. It tells me he's really good at it. He doesn't know why, but he's not 8 up with the whole process of football, right? He doesn't care about football. He just kind of plays it, and he just happens to be more athletic than the other kids. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in those guys. And there's so many of those guys. And 7-on-7 really shows those guys because they're good athletes, but they're there for the wrong reasons,
right,
to humiliate somebody else or put the ball in their face or whatever it might be. No, if you're at 7-on-7, it should be execution, getting better throws, getting better routes, better coverage, better spatial awareness. But JP, unfortunately, our culture rewards some of those kids early, but it's going to just end up killing them in the long run with the game of football. It's gonna cut them off. And so, but oddly enough, Todd Monken, we're sitting there and he's talking about Brandon Shepard, and they're playing Webster Groves. There was a fumble at the goal line. His Central was going in to score, probably whatever at the 5. The ball gets fumbled on the opposite sideline from where Brandon is, and a kid from Webster takes. This one, Webster was really good. Takes off running down the opposite sideline. Brandon runs 95 yards, catches the kid at the goal line, pulls the ball from him, gets it, strips it, picks it up, and brings it back the other way.
Yeah.
He's like, that's what I'm talking about. That kid loves playing football, and he does not want the other team to score because he's present and he wants to win. And the truth of the matter is, not every kid's like that. Those dudes are hard to find. And, when coaches find those types of guys, those are the ones everybody on the staff is in love with, and they want them to come to their school, right? And so, be that guy. But it takes doing things on your own. It takes being internally motivated and viewing the game bigger than yourself and not what it can do for you and what you can do for it. So I think that's the biggest trouble we have in today's game is too many kids are playing for some ulterior motive that is not being the best football player they can be.
Right. And if you want to be that best football player you can be, now is the time to do something about it. And in fact, it's hard to believe, man, that usually January seems like it really chugs along, right? You live a couple years trying to get through the month of January, it seems like, but it's gone by. We're already in February, man. Things are coming up fast, starting with a couple of combines, a couple of elite combines, one for the middle school kids. And then the annual, I think it's going 17th, 18th year, the elite football combine. Just, I mean, the names of kids who've come through that have gone on to play college and pro football is it's just endless. And you better be working for that, because following that you've got, the KC varsity combines are coming up, and then the Big Daddy Lindenwood camp. But starting off, go ahead and talk about the middle school combine coming up on February the 16th, and then the high school one on the 14th of March.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, those are the kickoff to the football offseason. Obviously, what skills training is, but these are for guys that have been working. You're going to see where you're at. Obviously, you're not a finished product in February or March, but it's going to paint a picture of where you're at. So, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade on February 16th at the St. Louis Athletic Center. Really good venue. We did it last year, 2 separate fields. Just a really good energy last year with the O-line, D-line, and then all the skill players. Really good setup. It's on President's Day, so it's a really good holiday day. Everybody's off school, get to go in, do your thing, and then from there, turn around and then we have March 14th. Saturday, March 14th is our high school combine, which again has lineage of guys that I mean, you name them, guys that are playing at every level of the game.
It's a great way to start you off. It's I just talked to a kid from Kansas City Rockhurst today, who said was like, hey, the combine's coming up. He's like, his first words out of his mouth was JP, thanks. That combine was very helpful to get me started last year. Right now he's got college interest, but he didn't know. Right. So I do what I do. Right. I found him. I'm like, hey, you need to come here. And boom, came, just showed out, very athletic, very happy with the results. And there we go. Here we are. So go ahead and finish telling people how they can sign up in our last 30 seconds here.
EliteFootballCombine.com is the easiest way to go for the middle school or the high school combine. And it's a great spot. It's a great place to be, to get your numbers, figure out where you need to be for the summer, and put all your stuff on display. Like let these college coaches know who you are.
A lot of guys very interested. Go ahead and that does it for us. Go ahead and check me out, JP Rock MO on X, JP Rock Scout U, the letter U on Instagram. All things Football 360 Show, football360show.com. Where can people reach you personally on social?
Elite Football on X, Elite Football Academy Instagram.
There you go. Enjoyed ourselves always. It is the fastest 48 minutes of football talk on the planet, man. We're done already. We could go on and on and on, and we do. So we will do that next week. We will talk to you soon. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you.